Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Kill the Comparison. This is a sub-series of the Kill the Cast podcast, which is available on Stitcher, Podbean, and now iTunes. And this series will be taking a look at one thing versus another, whether it's a game versus a movie versus its remake, or in this case, we're going to be looking at a book versus the movie based on that book. We're going to be looking at the Hellbound Heart versus the movie Hellraiser. A little history on the two. Hellbound Heart first appeared in a book called Night Visions, Volume 3, as a short story. It was later re-released as its own standalone after the movie gained success. The movie and the short story were produced a year apart. Kind of cool. Don't really see it that often, but the movie was actually written and directed by the author of the short story, one Mr. Clive Barker in this case. So in the book and the movie, we've got three main characters, pretty much. We have Larry, who's Larry in the Hellraiser movie, but Rory in the book. We have his wife, Julia, who is Julia in both. And then we have Christy, who in the movie is Larry / Rory's daughter. But in the book, she's just a friend who is secretly in love with him and jealous of Julia a little bit the entire time. Which between the two kind of changes the dynamic and what's going on. It kind of makes sense that he would make Christy the daughter as opposed to a secret love interest, because then there's less like melodrama on that side. Whereas because Julia is Christy's stepmother, not actual mother, she can still hate Christy, which she does in both the book and the movie. Or resents her, I guess would be a better term. So you can still have that conflict, but still have Christy caring about Larry / Rory a lot as his daughter, which works well. The opening scene of the book is way more descriptive than in the movie. In the book, Frank has set up almost a shrine to the Cenobites. He doesn't know what they are. He just knows that they are supposed to be bringing him unknown pleasure. So in that opening scene, in the movie, we get him opening the puzzle box. We get a quick flash of Hell Priest, also known as Pinhead, and a couple of the other Cenobites, and the hooks going into Frank's skin, and then it's over. We later in the movie we get a little bit more detailed in that scene, but in the book they appear, all of them. They're all described very well. Pinhead actually appears as androgynous in the book, as opposed to specifically male, as he's portrayed in the movie. But the Cenobites actually have a whole conversation with Frank that we don't get to see in the movie. They're not... In the movie, they're kind of displayed as, terrorizing phantoms. But in the book, they're very... Well, Pinhead, he's the only one that does the talking. He's very calm, he's very sophisticated in the book. And this happens again in the hospital scene with Christy when she summons the Cenobites. Pinhead has a conversation with her, and there's actually a scene in the book where a nurse walks into the room, and Pinhead lets her know that only she can see him, but the conversation is way more sophisticated as opposed to just scary. And we kind of get a glimpse of this in the hospital when he's being very calm and telling her not to cry, and that arguing is no use, and he's not like yelling or shouting or trying to be extremely violent. But it was way more calm in the book, but also way more terrifying, because you got a sense that these creatures could do whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted, and just because he was being calm and quiet and cool and collected, it just kind of made it more terrifying to me. The special effects, as far as the kills go, are really cool to see play out on screen, but the kill scenes in the book are a little bit longer and more drawn out. When Julia's killing all the people she brings home from the bar, the scenes are way more descriptive as far as what's going on and how long it's taking, but the special effects are a little bit better, especially like at the beginning with the hooks and seeing Frank's face on the ground. That's kind of cool. In the hospital when Christy first opens the puzzle box and she's going into hell, and that little hallgate demon thing is chasing her. That's not in the book at all, so that was kind of cool to get a glimpse into the Cenobites world that we don't get to see in the book. But yeah, the Cenobites are just way more developed in the book. So if you get a chance, track it down. I found my copy by going to Half Price Books and just asking them if any of the stores in the state had it. Because if any of the stores in your state have the book, they'll ship it to your local store for you. So that was a nice, easy way to get it. You can check Amazon. I'm sure there's a digital version of it available if that's your thing. As far as I know, there was no sequels to the book except for the more recently released Scarlet Gospels. Whereas the movies, there's 8 or 9 of them. Uh, Last year I went through and watched them all. The first 4 are okay. After that, they kind of get a little weird and don't really feel like Hellraiser movies, just movies that happen to have the Cenobites in them. As far as the overall content, the movie did a really good job of translating the book. I understand some of the changes, like Christy being the daughter as opposed to a best friend. I can understand why the kill scenes weren't as drawn out in the movie as they were in the book, but they were still really good. The special effects really good, especially the special effects on Frank. That was just fantastic. Seeing his skeleton with no skin on it, and then eventually the nerve endings before the skin, and just all the different transformations until he eventually is wearing Larry's skin at the end, which played off a little bit better than the book, I feel like. But they're great. The book is a nice, quick read. It's 11 chapters, I think. Really short. It's a novella, so you can get through it in one sitting if you're that kind of person, or if you're like me, 2 or 3 lunch breaks. So overall, I'd say that the book is the champion of this. The movie is fantastic. It's great classic horror cinema. But the book, the way we get to see the Cenobites, the conversations that we get to see with Hell Priest and Frank, and then Hell Priest and Christy, are they give you a more in-depth look into the Cenobites that we don't get to see until snippets later in the sequels of the movies. So I think that alone is worth giving the book a read. So yeah, this battle is going to go to the book in this case. If you haven't read the book but you like the movie, hunt down the book however you can, and definitely give it a read. It's really good. Classic Clive Barker. So yeah, that's all from me. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this. I'm still kind of working on a format. Right now it's just me rambling on. Um, so let me know what you want to see compared next. If you have any suggestions, we'll take a look at that. Let us know what you think of the podcast. There'll be links to all of our websites. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We have our podcast on Podbean, Stitcher, and iTunes. Many ways you can... Oh, and YouTube. There's the episodes on YouTube if that's how you prefer to do it. So give us a like, a subscribe, share with your friends, comment. We want to be very interactive with this stuff, so let us know. So that's it for now. Save lives, watch horror.